Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Dr. Muhammad Sarfraz, Associate Professor of Medicine. Today we will discuss about hypoparathyroidism and calcium homeostasis. Hypoparathyroidism, the most common cause is damage to the parathyroid glands or their blood supply during thyroid surgery. Hypoparathyroidism means decreased production of parathyroid hormones or decreased release of parathyroid hormones from the parathyroid glands. Rarely, hypoparathyroidism can occur as a result of infiltration of the glands. For example, hemochromatosis and Wilson disease. Before we discuss about the causes of hypoparathyroidism and its types, let's highlight some points about pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. The disorder is characterized by lack of responsiveness to PTH, resulting in decreased calcium, increased phosphate level, and appropriately increased PTH level in the blood. Individuals with Albright's hereditary osteodystrophy have short stature, shortened fourth and fifth metacarpals, rounded facies, and often mild mental retardation. The kidney responds as if PTH were absent. The PTH receptor itself is normal, but there are defective post-receptor mechanism due to mutation. So what are the types of hypoparathyroidism? It is primary and secondary. We will discuss the causes of primary and secondary one by one. Most people have 4 thyroid glands, and consequently primary hypoparathyroidism is uncommon. Hypocalcemia from hypoparathyroidism requires all 4 parathyroid glands to be affected. So it is very less common, because if one of the glands is normal, then they're still maintaining the calcium level in the blood. Primary hypoparathyroidism may be permanent or reversible. Permanent primary hypoparathyroidism may be congenital or acquired. So what are the causes of primary hypoparathyroidism? The most common cause is iatrogenic. The most common cause of primary hypoparathyroidism is excision of all the parathyroid gland through surgery in the treatment of thyroid, laryngeal or other neck malignancy, or parathyroid hyperplasia in MEN syndrome. Extensive radiation to the face, neck or mediastinum may cause destruction of all 4 parathyroid glands, resulting in hypoparathyroidism. The Hungry bone syndrome develops after a parathyroidectomy for hyperparathyroidism, because during hyperparathyroidism there is marked activation of osteoblast, but there is decreased mineralizations due to bone marrow resorption by the excess parathyroid hormones. So whenever we perform surgery and remove the defective parathyroid glands, the active osteoblast retain calcium avidly, very rapidly, and thereby decreasing the body calcium level, and transient hypocalcemia occur. The second cause of primary hypothyroidism is autoimmune. For example, type 1 and type 2 autoimmune polyglandular syndrome. Mostly it occurs in type 1. Autoimmune hypoparathyroidism may exist alone or in sporadic or familial forms. The rare causes are congenital one. Numerous conditions are described in the literature and result in congenital agenesis or hypoplasia, and therefore can produce primary hypoparathyroidism with symptomatic hypocalcemia at birth or in the newborn period. I have highlighted some of the congenital causes. There is a long list of congenital causes. One of them is isolated primary hypoparathyroidism, brachial dysgenesis, Dijon syndrome, velocardiofacial syndrome, Burkitt syndrome, and familial hypercalciuric hypocalcemia. These are the some congenital causes of primary hypoparathyroidism. And causes related to the metal overload. These are hemochromatosis and thalassemia, in which the iron overload is found. Because of repeated blood transfusion in thalassemia, and hemochromatosis increase iron level in the blood. They can infiltrate parathyroid glands, but it is a rare cause. Similarly, Wilson disease with copper overload, copper deposition occur in the parathyroid gland, resulting in primary hypoparathyroidism. Hypermagnesemia is another cause of primary hypoparathyroidism, but in this case the parathyroid hormones are produced normally, but there is decreased release of these hormones from the parathyroid gland due to hypermagnesemia. Aluminum deposition occur within the parathyroid gland in case of chronic renal failure patients who are on chronic dialysis, but nowadays it is rare. Hypomagnesemia also causes reversible functional primary hypoparathyroidism. It also causes decreased release of parathyroid hormones from the parathyroid gland. Causes related to infiltration of parathyroid glands. In addition to the hemochromatosis and Wilson disease, parathyroid gland destruction has been reported as a result of metastatic disease, granulomatous disease, amyloidosis, syphilis, and progressive systemic sclerosis. Now we comes to the secondary hypoparathyroidism. Secondary hypoparathyroidism is not a pathological one. It is a physiological response to the hypercalcemia due to vitamin D intoxications, malignancy-induced hypercalcemia, granulomatous disease, sarcoidosis, lithium-induced hypercalcemia, high bone turnover causes, for example, hyperthyroidism, and other causes of high bone turnover cause hypercalcemia and thereby cause decrease release of parathyroid hormones from parathyroid gland. As far as clinical features are concerned, these are mostly due to hypocalcemia, paresthesia involving fingertips, toes, perioral areas, hyperirritability of the muscles, fatigue, anxiety may be there, mood swings or personality disturbances, seizures especially in patients with epilepsy, hoarseness due to laryngospasm, wheezing and dyspnea due to bronchospasm, muscle cramps, diaphoresis and biliary colic may occur. Hypomagnesemia, hypokalemia and alkalosis caused by hyperventilation, which worsen sign and symptom of hypocalcemia, because in alkalosis there is increased binding of ionized calcium to the albumin, thereby decreasing the level of ionized calcium in the body, in the circulation. Other clinical features involve muscle cramps involving the lower back, legs and feet are common in patients with hypoparathyroidism and hypocalcemia. Tetany may develop if hypocalcemia is severe. In some patients, laryngospasm and bronchospasm may be life-threatening. These are two important signs, Chvostek sign and Troyo sign. We will discuss these two signs later on. Extrapyramidal chorioathetoid syndromes in patients with basal ganglia calcifications, because in hypoparathyroidism there is abnormal calcifications in different organs. One of them is basal ganglia. Parkinson-like features, dystonia, hemiblismus and oculogyric crisis may occur in approximately 5% of the patient with idiopathic hypoparathyroidism. Spastic paraplegia, ataxia, dysphagia, dysarthria have been documented in association with hypoparathyroidism-induced hypocalcemia. Severe hypocalcemia causes papilledema, which improves with treatment of the calcium derangement. Emotional instability, anxiety, depression, confusion, hallucinations, and psychosis may occur. You may remember that the CNS features may occur in hypercalcemia and hypocalcemia as well. These are the same features, clinical features we discussed in the portion of hyperparathyroidism. Ocular cataracts may occur, abnormal dentition and dry, puffy, coarse skin. As far as cardiovascular system is concerned, there is prolongation of the QT interval. Congestive heart failure may. So this is the diagrammatic representation how parathyroid hormones act on bone, kidney, and through vitamin D on GIT. I have discussed this before in the portion of hyperparathyroidism. How the parathyroid hormones are released and act on different organs. This is the slide showing the formation of active vitamin D formation. You can see the sunlight exposures in the skin. There is formation of 7-dehydroxycholesterol. In the liver, 25-hydroxylation occur by 25-hydroxylase enzymes and 25-hydroxycholecalciferol is formed. In the kidney, due to action of the 1-alpha-hydroxylase, 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, the active form of vitamin D is formed. And this active vitamin D act on the GI to increase the absorption of calcium. And alpha-1 hydroxylase enzyme is under the action of parathyroid hormones. This is the slide showing how PTH affects on bone. It causes bone resorption and thereby releasing calcium into the extracellular fluid and increase calcium in the body. And whenever there is decreased PTH, for example in hypoparathyroidism, the calcium level in the blood will be decreased. This slide showing PTH effects on the kidney. You can see here it causes decrease the loss of calcium ions in the urine by stimulating calcium reabsorption. It inhibits phosphate reabsorption. So whenever there is deficiency of parathyroid hormones, you can see there would be increased calcium in the urine and phosphate will be retained and there will be hyperphosphatemia. The second action of the parathyroid hormones is it stimulates production of 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol. And in deficiency of parathyroid hormone, as in hypoparathyroidism, there is decreased formation of active form of vitamin D. This is Chopstick sign, as I already mentioned in the clinical features. It is an abnormal reaction to the stimulation of the facial nerve. When the facial nerve is tapped at the angle of the jaw, the facial muscle on the same side of the face will contract momentarily, typically a twitch of the nose or lips because of hypocalcemia. It is called Chopstick sign. Trousseau signs. To elicit this sign, a blood pressure cuff is placed around the arm and inflated to a pressure greater than the systolic blood pressure of that person and held in place for 3 minutes. This will occlude the brachial artery. In the absence of the blood flow, the patient's hypocalcemia and subsequent neuromuscular irritability will induce spasms of the muscles of the hand and forearm. You can see here in this picture. The wrist and metacarpophalangeal joints flex. The distal interphalangeal joint and proximal interphalangeal joints extend and the fingers adduct. So how we diagnose a case of hypoparathyroidism? Obviously, we have to measure the parathyroid hormone. Primary hypoparathyroidism is defined by low concentration of PTH with a concomitant low calcium level. In pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, the serum PTH concentration is elevated as a result of resistance to the PTH caused by mutation in the PTH receptor system. So there is peripheral resistance in the case of pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. There would be hypocalcemia, hyperphosphatemia as occur in primary hypoparathyroidism, but the main difference is in pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, the PTH concentration will be elevated because there is no abnormality in the production and release of parathyroid hormones from parathyroid gland. But in case of primary hypoparathyroidism, there is decreased PTH as well. In secondary hypoparathyroidism, the serum PTH concentration is low and the serum calcium concentration is elevated. As I mentioned earlier, it's a physiological response to the increased calcium level in the body. Other than the causes of hyperparathyroidism, increased calcium other than the caused by hyperparathyroidism. So next we will measure calcium level. The calcium ion is highly bound to protein. A total calcium level cannot be interpreted without a total protein albumin level. So hypoalbuminemia can cause decrease calcium level measurement, and elevated protein states can cause falsely raised total calcium level. So serum albumin should be measured along with calcium. But ionized calcium may be normal or paradoxically abnormal. Serum total calcium concentration falls by 0.8 mg per deciliter for every 1 gram per deciliter fall in serum albumin concentration. This rule assumes that normal albumin equals 4 gram per deciliter and normal calcium is 10 mg per deciliter. Alkalosis causes ionized calcium to bind to albumin more strongly. This causes a decrease in the ionized calcium and may trigger symptoms of hypocalcemia. Then we measure the 25-hydroxy vitamin D. Because the main differential diagnoses in the case of hypocalcemia are three. Number one, hypoparathyroidism. Number two, vitamin D deficiency. And number three, hypomagnesemia. So measurement of 25-hydroxy vitamin D is also necessary to rule out vitamin D deficiency, and serum magnesium levels should be measured as it compete one of the differential diagnosis. Serum phosphorus level would be high in case of hypoparathyroidism, but in case of vitamin D deficiency, serum phosphorus level will be low along with hypocalcemia. And consider genetic testing and family screening in a patient with hypoparathyroidism of unknown etiology. As far as management of hypoparathyroidism is concerned, persistent hypoparathyroidism and pseudo-hypoparathyroidism are treated with oral calcium salts and vitamin D analog, either 1-alpha-hydroxycholecalciferol or 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol. We cannot give 25-hydroxycholecalciferol because there is problem with the alpha-1 hydroxylase that is not activated due to decreased parathyroid hormone. So either we give alpha-1 hydroxycholecalciferol or 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol. Recombinant PTH is available as subcutaneous injection therapy for osteoporosis. Milder symptoms of neuromuscular irritability, paresthesia are corrected with oral calcium supplementations, in which serum calcium is more than 7.5 mg per deciliter. 1500 to 2000 mg of elemental calcium given as calcium carbonate or calcium citrate per day in divided doses. If symptoms do not improve with oral supplementation, IV calcium infusion is required. So, management of severe hypocalcemia, which usually treat with 10 to 20 ml of 10% calcium gluconate IV over 10 to 20 minutes. Continuous IV infusion may be required for several hours. Cardiac monitoring is recommended. If magnesium deficiency is found, one should give 50 millimole magnesium chloride IV over 24 hours. So some important aspects from as far as calcium hemostasis is concerned. So normal serum calcium level is 8.5 to 10.5 mg per deciliter or 2.1 to 2.6 millimole per liter. Hypercalcemia is defined as when the serum calcium level is more than 10.5 mg per deciliter or more than 2.6 millimole per liter. And hypocalcemia is defined when the serum calcium level is less than 8.5 mg per deciliter or less than 2.1 millimole. So how the calcium hemostasis occur? This is the slide showing endocrine regulation of calcium in extracellular fluid. Parathyroid hormone and vitamin D are two important aspects which control the calcium level in the body. PTH stimulates the release of calcium from the bone in part by stimulating bone resorption by activating the osteoclast cells. PTH decreases urinary loss of calcium by stimulating calcium reabsorption. PTH indirectly stimulates calcium absorption in the small intestine by stimulating the synthesis of 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol in the kidney. So hypocalcemia is much less common than hypercalcemia. The most common cause of hypocalcemia is a low serum albumin with normal ionized calcium concentration. This is the differential diagnosis of hypocalcemia. You can see in this table. In hypoalbuminemia, there is total serum calcium level is decreased due to decreased albumin. Ionized serum calcium level may be normal. Serum phosphate would be normal and serum PTH would also be normal. In case of alkalosis caused by respiratory hyperventilation or Cone syndrome, you can see here total serum calcium would not be changed, but ionized serum calcium would be decreased due to increased binding to the albumin by alkalosis. Obviously, there is no effect on the serum phosphate, and serum PTH would be normal or raised due to decreased ionized serum calcium level in the blood. Vitamin D deficiency is another cause of hypocalcemia. In this, the total serum calcium level and ionized serum calcium level will be decreased. Serum phosphate would also be decreased, and there would be raised serum PTH as a secondary hyperparathyroidism. In chronic renal failure, total serum calcium and ionized serum calcium both will be decreased. Serum phosphate will be increased due to retention by the abnormal kidney, and there would be secondary hyperparathyroidism and serum PTH would be raised. Hypoparathyroidism is another cause of hypocalcemia which we have discussed before. It also in this the both total serum calcium and ionized serum calcium would be decreased, and serum phosphate will be retained in the body due to decreased parathyroid hormones, and serum PTH obviously would be decreased. And pseudo hypoparathyroidism, similar pictures, biochemical picture as with hypoparathyroidism. One exception is that there is raised PTH level. It is due to resistance at the peripheral tissue. In acute pancreatitis, total serum and ionized serum calcium would be decreased. Serum phosphate may be normal or decreased, and secondary hyperparathyroidism causing raised serum PTH level. Hypomagnesemia, there would also be decreased total serum calcium, decreased ionized serum calcium, serum phosphate would be variable, serum PTH may be normal or decreased. Hypomagnesemia causes decreased release of parathyroid hormones from parathyroid gland. So these are some of the causes of hypocalcemia. So whenever we encounter a patient with hypocalcemia, we should confirm by measuring ionized calcium. Then we have to address the three most important causes of hypocalcemia: serum magnesium level, PTH level, intact PTH level, and assess vitamin D status. So we have to measure 25-hydroxy vitamin D to exclude vitamin D deficiency as a cause of hypocalcemia. We should measure serum magnesium level. Hypomagnesemia may cause PTH deficiency and subsequent hypocalcemia. Serum phosphorus, PTH, is a phosphatidic hormone. In its absence, phosphorus level in the blood rise. Obviously, we have to rule out the chronic kidney disease and the alkalosis as well, and pancreatitis. All the causes I mentioned in the previous table, we should rule out all the causes of hypocalcemia. And treatment, calcium salts and vitamin D are the mainstay of treatment. Calcium salts in the form of calcium carbonate calcium citrate, calcium gluconate. And vitamin D preparation, algocalciferol, dihydrotestosterone, calcifidiol, and calcitriol. These are the food rich in calcium. You can see here milk, yogurt, soya beans, orange, ladyfingers, cheese, turnip greens, cinnamon, almonds, and sesame seeds. These are rich in. Now a brief presentation about hypercalcemia. The causes of hypercalcemia: there is primary or tertiary hyperparathyroidism, lithium-induced hyperparathyroidism, familial hypocalciuric hypercalcemia, and with low PTH level there would be malignancy, lung, breast, renal, ovarian, colonic or thyroid carcinoma, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, elevated 1,25-hydroxycholecalciferol or vitamin D intoxication, sarcoidosis, HIV, other granulomatous diseases. They can cause hypercalcemia because sarcoidosis and granulomatous disease, they form active vitamin D, thereby causing hypercalcemia. They have activity of alpha-1 hydroxylase enzyme. Similarly, thyrotoxicosis can cause hypercalcemia due to increased bone turnover. Pheochromocytoma, Paget's disease with immobilization also causes bone resorption and ultimately hypercalcemia. Milk-alkali syndrome, thiazide, lithium, and theophylline and glucocorticoid deficiency. These are the causes of hypercalcemia in which there is secondary hypoparathyroidism. And the first one in which primary or tertiary hyperparathyroidism or lithium-induced hyperparathyroidism or familial hypocalciuric hypercalcemia, in all these cases there is raised PTH level. So what is the management of hypercalcemia? As I mentioned in the topic of hyperparathyroidism, we should hydrate the patient with normal saline. Diuretics, we should use the furosemide when the dehydration is corrected. Now we can use the furosemide along with IV normal saline. Bisphosphonates can be given to decrease or prevent bone resorption. Hormone replacement therapy in postmenopausal women with mild hypercalcemia, and calcium mimetic drugs can be used. Calcitonin can also be used, which also prevent the osteoclast cells to prevent the bone loss and treatment of the underlying cause. So this table is a briefly description of the things we have discussed already. You can see here in hyperparathyroidism, calcium and PTH both would be high. Hypoparathyroidism, calcium and PTH both would be low. Hypercalcemia of pregnancy, calcium would be high and PTH would be low. And secondary hyperparathyroidism in renal disease, calcium would be low and PTH would be high. Thank you very much.